And we are being recorded and are live on Zoom.
It's finally.
All right.
So I got a whole bunch of people as advocates in case there's questions.
All right. I believe we have all the VPAC members here who are intended to be here today, and we have, I assume, everyone here from staff who we are expecting. All right, then I will call the meeting to order. Can we do a roll call or not?
Yes, absolutely. Chair James Kuzma.
Present.
Vice Chair Isaac Stone.
Present.
Member Terry Barton.
Present.
Member Valerie Fenwick. Member Lada Atomic. We do have quorum.
Thank you. And we will now move to agenda item 3, oral communications from the public. This is for non-agendized items. So if you're here to speak on either of the main item or any of the main items on the agenda, there will be a separate time for that. Does anyone wish to speak? Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We cannot act on non-agendized items.
So this is for non-agenda
Or
items.
non-agenda items. Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we do have one hand up on Zoom.
Would you please call?
All right, Bruce England, I'm going to click to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Brandon. Do you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
We can hear you. Let's try this. We can hear you.
You don't hear me?
We can hear you. Okay, so the mic is working.
His hands up, yeah.
Let me type in let's see if we have a. We were getting echo, so I think our mic is working.
Hello?
We can hear you, Bruce.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I switched headsets. Don't know why that one wasn't working. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, 2 things. One is on the agenda file, it gives the Zoom link, but then it also requires an ID setting, which is can be difficult if somebody's on a portable device, things like that. And the city meetings tend to not include the ID. So in future, if you could figure out how to omit that and just be able to click the Zoom link and go right to the meeting, that would be wonderful. And then the second thing is, as most of you already know, we've got the Day Without Driving event through the Bicycle Coalition on October 4th. And there's been a lot of messaging on it, but please consider registering for it and try not to drive on October 4th. If you have any trouble finding the Eventbrite link for registering, please let me know and we'll help you out. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Do we have anyone else for general public comment?
Yes, we do. Just 1 second. April Webster, I'm going to click to allow you to talk and then you'll have 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself.
Thanks. Hi, it's April Webster. I thought I would share a couple of developments at the regional and state level that folks in this group might be interested in. At the state level, I just wanted to share there's been some developments with Caltrans design and bulletin for complete streets. That's DIB 94. It went out to the public for comment back in the spring, and in the past month, it's been discovered that some of the engineering and legal team have decided that it's too challenging to include interchanges in the design guidance. A number of efforts have been made. Just to give some context, interchanges are any over or underpasses plus the on and off ramps that go pass over any of the Caltrans highways. So an example would be shoreline overpass plus the ramps leading up to that. And so if it's omitted from this design guidance, that means that all of the right of ways are
you cut
continue
out.
to be subject. Oh, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, you might want to repeat for 10 seconds or so.
Okay, I was just saying that shoreline overpass would be an example of that. And what it means for everyone in the state is that if the interchange will continue to be subject to HDM guidelines, which means that the addition of sidewalks or widening of those, adding bike lanes, widening or narrowing car lanes would be subject to HDM, and it basically requires a document get submitted to Caltrans 6 months time, and is not guaranteed to get passed. So this is a huge gap. And there have been a number of efforts to try and advocate for that to get included in. It may not happen. It's getting signed in a few days. So we'll know soon. If that doesn't happen, hopefully a lot of us in the Bay Area can push to get that added in the next revision. At the MTC level, there is a new TA program for both the ATP funding and the Safe Routes to School. They've just launched it, so it's a bit ambiguous still as to what that includes, but I think it basically set up mentorship in some way. They'll help out with designing, planning. They'll even come and do site visits. And then there's one other program, the Reconnecting Communities and Neighborhoods Grant Program, which is essentially free money and not enough people apply. So unfortunately, the deadline is tomorrow, but maybe in future, it might be a good program to look at. That's all. Thanks.
Just a note, HDM stands for Highway Design.
Thank you. Do we have any other general public comments?
No, Chair.
All right, thank you. Then we will close non-agendized public comment and move on to agenda item 4, minutes approval. We have 2 meetings to approve the minutes for, and we will start with item 4.1, approving the meeting minutes for April 26, 2023. Is there any public comment on the April 26th meeting minutes? Do we have any online public comment on the April 26th meeting minutes?
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, great. Then we will close public comment for item 4.1. Committee members, comments or motions?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes for April 26, 2023.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Looks like we have a 3-0 approval of the April 26 meeting minutes. Then we'll move to item 4.2, approving the meeting minutes for April 27th, 2023. Do we have any public comment on the meeting minutes for April 27th? Nope. Seeing none, we will close public comment for item 4.2. Committee comments or motions?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes for April 27th, 2023.
I will second.
And we have another motion moved by Vice Chair, seconded by Member Barton. That is 3-0. Oh, sorry. All in favor? Great. It passes 3-0. All right, that brings us to the end of item 4. We now move to item 5, unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. Item 6, new business. We will start with item 6.1, the Grant and Sleeper Avenue intersection improvements, project 2139. I assume we have a staff presentation.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
I'm Robert Gonzalez, a principal civil engineer. Catherine Robertson, associate civil engineer, is going to provide the presentation. Just as background, the Grant Sleeper intersection is a subject that BPAC has seen before. It was moved forward, I believe, in 2021 to the Council Transportation Commission, which approved the preliminary design, and then it was moved forward to council, who will also approve the design. So we received feedback from both BPAC and CTC during that first round, and so the intent of this presentation is to provide some information, present the updated design, and then get feedback on the updates that you had not seen before. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, good evening. Thank you, Chair and committee members. This item before you on the agenda tonight is a project update on Grant Road and Sleeper Avenue intersection improvement projects. My name is Catherine Robertson. I'm an associate civil engineer with the Public Works Department. Additionally, with me is Robert Gonzalez, the principal civil engineer for the civil infrastructure section, and he will assist me with answering your questions at the end of this presentation. All right, let's get started. This image here shows that the intersection of Grant Road and Sleeper Avenue is located along Grant Road, approximately midway between North Drive and Cuesta Drive, indicated by the blue circle with a 1 in the middle. The intersection is adjacent to Cuesta Park and is an essential connection to the entrance of the Stevens Creek Trail, which is approximately 1/2 mile to the east of the intersection, as seen on the far right of this image. El Camino Hospital and the YMCA are both to the west of the intersection along North Drive, located in the bottom left corner of this image. Now a little background on this project thus far. In 2018, the city issued a request for proposals for conducting a feasibility study of the Grant Road and Sleeper Avenue intersection. In 2019, the city contracted with TJKM Transportation Consultants to conduct the study and evaluate conceptual alternatives for improvements to facilitate the safe movement of pedestrians and bicyclists crossing Grant Road at Sleeper Avenue. The current conditions, as depicted in this image, show that there is only one marked crosswalk at the eastern leg of the intersection to cross Sleeper Avenue, while a median opening and accessible curb ramps are provided on the southern leg of the intersection to allow pedestrians and bicyclists to cross Grant Road. The feasibility study accumulated in a preferred alternative design, which was presented and supported by the BPAC and the Council Transportation Committee, CTC, in February and April of 2021, respectively. As part of CTC's recommendation of the preferred alternative, they requested that a northern bicycle crossing for westbound cyclist movements be incorporated into the final design. And in June of 2021, Council approved the preferred alternative recommended by BPAC and CTC with the addition of a northern bicycle crossing. The image here shows the preferred alternative design from the feasibility study, which included a pedestrian hybrid beacon, PHB, on Grant Road, a high visibility crosswalks on the southern and eastern legs of the intersection, a left turn restriction from Sleeper Avenue onto Grant Road, adaptive traffic signal equipment and signal interconnect, streetlights, and enhanced signage and striping. Which leads us to today's preliminary design. BKF and staff coordinated on the northern bicycle crossing for westbound cyclist movements. And the new preliminary design includes all elements from the approved preferred alternative with the following additional improvements across Grant Road. A high visibility northern pedestrian crosswalk and associated ADA curb ramps, northerly and southerly bicycle crossings, including green markings, bike ramps, and pathway access, blank out signs that will be activated in conjunction with the PHB to indicate a no right turn restriction for westbound vehicles on Sleeper Avenue, a median island for improved visibility of the left turn restriction from Sleeper Avenue to Grant Road, and PHB push buttons for cyclists. For those unfamiliar with how a blank out sign would be integrated here, let me provide a little more detail. Once the PHB is activated by pedestrians or cyclists via a push button, the intersection will function as a full stop for all vehicles in all movements once the solid red light indication turns on for northbound and southbound Grant Road. Activated blank out sign will illuminate in conjunction with the PHB activation, prohibiting right turning vehicles from Sleeper Avenue onto Grant Road that would conflict with the pedestrian and bicyclists crossing Grant Road. Pedestrians and bicyclists will each have their own designated travel area delineated by corresponding striping on the roadway. Once the activated PHB cycle completes, the blank out sign will turn off, showing no restrictions for the right turning vehicles on Grant Road from Sleeper Avenue. With the addition of the northerly bicycle crossing for westbound bicycle movements, staff added a crosswalk as well, since it provides a more direct path across Grant Road for pedestrians on the north side of Sleeper Avenue traveling westernly, eliminating the need for pedestrians to make an additional crossing of Sleeper Avenue to access the west side of Grant Road. So what are our next steps? Staff will be bringing this preliminary design to the CTC next week, and we'll be verbally sharing any feedback that BPAC provides us tonight. The designer will then take any feedback from BPAC and CTC to continue to develop the design in preparation for advertising the project construction. All right, that wraps the presentation. Thank you, Chair and committee members. Any questions?
Thank you. We will now go to committee clarifying questions prior to public comment. Members have clarifying questions about the project. Member Barton.
I do have one, and tell me if it should be delayed or it's not appropriate. But my question is, I think we saw this 17 months ago or so. And the change added was for the additional bike crossing. Was that the entire reason for delay, or I think there was also funding discussion at some point? I guess I'm just would like to understand what happened in 17 months and if we could do something better in the future.
Yeah, Member Barton, thank you for the question. So the delay was not due to funding. The delay was due to staffing and other priority projects. So my group is responsible for delivering this project and several of the other transportation and pavement related projects. And we had a good amount of grant funded projects that were driven by deadlines, both state and local grants, many of the supported grants. So those projects needed to be prioritized ahead of this one. But the good news is that a lot of those are in the development pipeline now. And the staffing challenges that we had 18 months ago are resolved. So we have full staff in my group. So that's why we're seeing this moving forward. We brought on the consultant earlier this year, and they've been working diligently on that. So we think we have good momentum moving forward from here.
So I was glad to see the design improvement, glad that that wasn't the source of the delay. Glad we got the necessary grants on other projects, and glad we're ready to go.
Yes, I have a theoretical question. So just to clarify my mind, if this was not a pedestrian hybrid beacon, but you had chosen instead to use a regular stoplight, would that have forced you to do the stoplight warrant process?
Like a full signalized intersection?
Just a stoplight that turns red when you push the button, you wait for it to red and you cross. Yes, like a regular signal.
So backing up several months, we did go through the feasibility study for this project, and a full signal was one of the alternatives that was evaluated and kind of set aside as not the most practical alternative for this intersection. This is a three-legged intersection, so it fits well. This particular technology fits well for this location.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically, and I could turn to my traffic engineer, Darwin Gulling, to answer the questions. Your specific question about the warrant.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand what is the, because I have seen when you push a button, you wait, and it's just one crossing that's only for pedestrians. But I'm seeing more and more of these pedestrian hybrid beacons coming in, and I'm wondering, is it because of the traffic warrant system, or is it because we feel that they are a better treatment for another reason?
I can answer that. Darwin Galam, senior traffic engineer. So I think you're asking about a signal for pedestrian. There's a lot of other items as part of this design, you know, looking at the left turn movement and all the other conflicts. Plus the signal, as you know, will cost more than the PHB. That's why we decided to go to that route. And that was the recommended alternative by BPAC CTC to council. Okay.
I believe I inquired when this was came before, so the cost was assessed.
Learning, yes.
So I can add a comment. So I think we did consider multiple alternatives. Cost was the main reason full signalized wasn't considered. A less, not the hybrid beacon, but just the flashing lights was a concern because of traffic flow on Grant, especially in the mornings if it was repeatedly used. one pedestrian after another in a series, it could back up traffic for a considerable amount of time. And with the sequence signals, that would be an issue. So that's why I think the hybrid beacon was chosen, because it could integrate with the flow of traffic and provide all the safety. It was more expensive than less, intrusive, but I think it was all looked at, and we don't have the detail probably in the minutes, but that was all the discussion.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Anything else you were going to say? And I was curious, what was the motivation for choosing those style of posts in particular? I assume that those are the posts that are marked in the little circles up there. Is there any strong motivation for choosing those over anything else?
So this is still the like preliminary design.
Yeah.
So this is just their first take on
Okay.
it. So they'll do additional, figure out if that's what's gonna work best there. The K71 posts are what are here in the roadway. They're gonna be more visible. They're larger, they're gonna be more of a deterrent. These flexible posts are what we're seeing along here to isolate the bike lane. That's if you're wondering where they're located.
Yeah, and for additional background, we did work with the traffic staff, and we looked at other examples in the Bay Area and outside other parts of California. And we did see that the K71 was used regularly for within the intersections and in we're open to feedback if you have a preference.
With that, we will move to public comment for agenda item 6.1. We will start with people in the room. I believe we have multiple people. We will do 3 minutes as normal. For an orderly queue.
And if you're comfortable, please state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Jack Siegel. I'm a former mayor, council member. In fact, I was on one of the first, helped start the bicycle committee, as it was called many, many years ago. I'm here representing myself and my wife Sharon, who has served on a bunch of committees and commissions in the city. So just want to say, first of all, thank you for the work you folks do. I appreciate it. It means a lot to the city. And the reason I'm here tonight is to support this project. And like Mr. Barton said here, I don't know what happened to 17 months. Somewhere along the way, the city forgot this is a safety issue. It's not moving traffic. It's not moving people or bicycles. It's a safety issue. I live on Sleeper Avenue, and a day doesn't go by where somebody doesn't slam on their brakes to avoid hitting a pedestrian or a bicycle. So why we haven't prioritized it on safety, I have no idea. It's a shame. What is a child's life worth? You know, because we have additional funding from somewhere else, grants that we're going to lose money on. It's wrong. So it's just taken way too long to get to this point. This project was talked about in 2011. I remember talking about it. And then again and again and again, it was put off. The CIP, I don't know the date of the CIP that was actually, that this falls under. But it's years ago. It's already years ago where it was fully funded. And so it's been a long time. And still we're looking at another 1.5 to 2 years to finish this by your own schedule up here. And that's just ridiculous, in my opinion. Again, the main issue is safety, and I think the addition of the North Crossing is great. I think that was smart. I don't know who came up with it, but I think it's a good idea. I am concerned about the cost of it against what the budget was in the CIP. I don't know what it was, but it's going to cost more. It clearly is. Is that going to be a problem? I don't know. And then, about some unintended consequences, which are both good and bad. By stopping and slowing down traffic on Grant Road. And before I run out of time, can I use my wife's time as well?
As long as she's not going to speak.
Okay. So unintended consequences. When the traffic stops on Grant Road in both directions, it's going to back up down to Cuesta, down to El Camino. It's going to back up, I don't know how far coming down Grant Road or Grant Expressway, as we now call it. where the speed limit is as fast as you can go. I think these consequences, that may be good, because it's gonna take people through off the city streets. And maybe they'll stay on Highway 85, they'll stay on 101 longer and not come right to the heart of our city. That's one of the problems. They actually reduced the vehicular traffic on Grant Road, which is maybe a good thing. Okay, one of the problems they're gonna have in that intersection, traffic backs up there all the way through now. There has to be some kind of markings to prevent, cars don't even have a choice. You're stopped there, so you can't get out of the intersection. The light's gonna change and the cars are gonna be sitting there. So something needs, the fire station down the road has signs that says, don't come beyond this point, and it kind of works. So something needs to be done about that, okay? Let's see here. How long is a light crossing gonna be? I don't know, because it's gotta accommodate pedestrians, bicycles, people on with strollers, children, young, old, all kinds of stuff. I think about it, the adaptive, traffic is, I think, is a good thing, because I can envision a group come in, push the button, they go across, stops the traffic. A minute later or 2 minutes later, here's another group, because that's how many people are coming and going all the time. So I don't really understand how it's going to work, but you said adaptive traffic control is supposed to help take care of that. Okay. In conclusion, the main issue is improved safety. And while this is not a perfect solution, there are no perfect solution, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything. So I strongly urge you, let's move ahead as strong as we can and do something instead of nothing, which has been done for years, nothing. And we have a real safety issue here. I just hope we get it done before somebody gets killed there. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
So just in terms of point of order, I think what I've seen, and I need to get advice on this process, but what I've seen happen before is if someone wants to cede their time, that person should say that they're going to cede their time rather than somebody else announcing that they will cede somebody else's time.
I think that's an appropriate procedure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully that was okay.
It was okay if you Jack took your time.
She can't. Sharon can't hear.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you all for your participation in this and what you do. I wanted to introduce myself to folks I've been in discussion with about this crossing for years. I am a 50-year plus resident in the Waverly Park area, right near there. I'm an avid walker and a user of the crossing. My wife, who's also with me, we use it like every day. So we see what it's about. And safety side of it, I'm a retired mountain firefighter. I had to show off my shirt, I'm pretty proud of it. And so I retired out of Station 2 on Grant and Cuesta, right down from where this crossing is. And I've seen the problems. I still see the problems every day, as Mr. Siegel talked about, with the crosswalk is used by children going to and from the junior high school, because from our area, they use that because it's just a main avenue from the trail. Once that trail was put in, which was put in 2009, it's become a major transportation way for bikes, pedestrians, and adults who like to walk, especially since COVID. We've had everybody's become avid walkers or bicyclists. So I introduced myself also to Mr. Gonzalez. It's new to me. Darwin Galang and I have been in touch. And Catherine, we haven't met yet, but maybe we'll talk. I don't know. I'm finally, I told my wife I wanted to celebrate in the middle of the intersection with the birthday cake when it gets built, because I don't want to see a problem. I don't want to see, there have been some accidents there. And there's a lot of near misses. And as you know, people, I don't know if speed limits count anymore on any streets. And Grant Road, 50+ miles an hour, easy. And we've got young kids that aren't paying attention to that. And there's no crossing, no hash marks, no signs, no indication that that's a crossing other than for pedestrians sees the yellow dots, the safety island and the yellow dots. I've said, man, this is an invitation to danger. I've said that for years. I would wait, let me cede my time too. I'll ask for permission and she can say it. So anyhow, I just wanted to introduce myself to you folks. Thank you. I'm glad to see it get going. And as Jack said, please don't stall on it anymore. Let's get it going. I know this design is going to be presented to the Transportation Committee next week. It's just kind of like looking at it without, it's already approved, the money's there, it's going to go. Oh, they can't answer or?
Point of order,
No.
We can save
Honey?
questions for once everyone's done their public comment, or, yeah.
My wife is seating me.
Yes, but he just said you don't have to add the questions later. Yes, I will cede my time.
I will collect anything I hear that's mentioned as a question and
Okay.
ask it.
Again, I want to reiterate then what Mr. Siegel said, Jack Siegel, about the intersection. It will get clogged during the busy hours twice a day. The school getting out, that's St. Francis, that's the high school, and the elementary school, which is right off part of that path. And then in the morning hours. So a good idea, I think, would be to put a keep clear in the intersection, because they have it right in front of the firehouse, the one I retired out of at Station 2 is a keep clear. And people, for the most part, tend to honor that. And I want the committee to know, and the members of the city staff to know, that the Waverly Park neighbors did participate in that preliminary design. We were on a Zoom at that time, and we got to talk about no left turn lane off Sleeper onto Grant. We got to talk about the signs and the crosswalk. So we're the users. We're the ones that actually are going to walk across this thing. So we're anxious for it. I'm overly anxious for it. And I just encourage you to do everything you can to see that this moves forward through the design. We'll get this design approved. So after you meet with the committee next week, the Council Transportation Committee, then I'm assuming it will be, design will be kind of approved. I'm also here with other neighbors of mine from the Waverly Park. We've been so anxious for this. I just want to say thank you. I enjoyed working for the city. I hope you do. We appreciate it. It's hard to talk to people when they can't talk back. So thank you all, folks.
Once.
Oh, you have a question?
If you don't mind, you don't have to, but could you state your name for the
Dale
record?
Kirsten, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Just got right into it.
Additional public comment inside the meeting room.
Yes.
So
This is the first meeting. I've lived here.
Oh, excuse me.
Is it almost 60?
Yeah, but you can't say
You
that.
can't? Oh, excuse me. I can't hear.
You can't hear.
This is what I'm trying to tell you. I can't hear. This is the first time I've gone to a meeting like this where you are facing each other and not the people who can't.
Can't hear
I can't hear it either. We have a droning back here.
Yeah.
It's lovely, but it's not singing my song.
Try to keep that in mind.
we will have to require people to come to the podium and say they cede their time prior to, someone else cannot say that they cede their time while
Yes.
standing at the podium.
Additional in-person public comments.
Hey.
My name's Ken Newman. I'm gonna cede my time to my wife Cindy.
Thank you, Commander. I'm Cindy Newman. This is Old Home Week for me. I'm also Cynthia Palacio, retired from City of Mountain View Solid Waste Recycling 3 years ago. I actually read a traffic study that I was asked to by former traffic engineer Hydarin when they synchronized those Grant Road lights, which was great because they synchronized them. But I've noticed since then, and I was worried then, about increased traffic flow, and that's why people are able to do 50 miles an hour down Grant Road. So I can also tell you that 3 years ago, I did bike to work, as I usually do at the start of the season, from my home at 24 Cynthia Palacio, 2430 Villanueva Way. And Villanueva Way is that little U-shaped street off of Eunice, right near the hospital. It has several speed bumps. I regularly walk and bike to the dog park. I go to Cuesta Park. Sometimes I go down Sleeper because of the trail. but I find that I take my life in my hands, not necessarily at Sleeper and Grant, but at Cooper and Eunice because of the traffic flow. And what I'm concerned about is this restricted left turn lane. I think that that should not be 24 hours. I think it should be during some peak periods, and we could tell you what they are. Because from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon till about 5, because of the schools letting out and the hospital shift worker change, we can't get out of Eunice onto Grant unless there's a signal control. And even with a signal control, as there is now, the intersection is blocked by cars from the hospital, cars in the northbound Grant from the high school direction. It is blocked, and I've taken video of it. I've honked at people. Several years ago, when I was still working here, the city did put in do not block intersection on North Drive heading towards Grant Road. They don't care, they block it, both lanes. So with that exception, you can do 50 miles an hour on Grant Road, no problem. So when I did bike to work, this goes to the post idea. I'm in favor of about half of these improvements, by the way. I'm not in favor of the posts. Why? Because posts have a way of endangering me as a bicyclist and as a pedestrian. When I did a bike to work on the Castro, what we used to call the wiggle waggle between El Camino and this Graham School. I was doing bike to work. I was in the obviously marked green bicycle lane, helmet. You could not miss me. I was 50 pounds heavier. I'm wearing bright yellow everything. You can't miss me. But a pickup truck from Graham School jumped into the intersection because he saw his opening in that 2 lanes of traffic heading northbound to the city. And he jumped into it, and I'm in the bike lane. Can you not see me? I'm standing up. I'm 50 pounds heavier. In order to avoid him, I have to try and turn, and I hit the bumpers. And I rolled 2 lanes. And one of the construction guys patched me up when I got here for bike to work day, too late to take the picture, but I was bloodied. So I don't like these restrictions with these posts and things because I don't have an out. These days I ride a electric bike. So let me get to this because I see my time. Is this the first 3 minutes?
Second.
So I'm in favor of the illuminated sign. I forgot what you called it, blackout sign. That's pedestrian activated. I'm in favor of the north crossing. I'm opposed to the posts, the 30 posts, and putting a median, I think, in the middle of that intersection to prevent left turns. You know, the reason we've had so many near misses is because we have a pocket for a pedestrian to be in. But there's no crosswalk across Grant Road from Sleeper East to Cuesta Park West. Why don't we try putting in everything else but the posts first and see how it goes? And let's go ahead and restrict left turn during certain hours. Maybe what we have to do is not have integrated lights up and down Grant Road. Maybe it would be good for people to have to stop. I feel like this is almost over-designed. You might as well put in a traffic light. Safety is an issue. But I think when you have a complicated intersection, it distracts drivers, especially drivers that are not used to our area, that are commuting to get to Fremont and to 85 as quickly as they can. And I think it's too much. I think we should not do the posts. The unintended consequences, and this is probably the most important for us, the backup traffic. People on Sleeper to make a left turn are going to have to come down Carroll and go to Eunice, which again is a very congested area. It's not lined up. It's just slightly apart between the Villanueva Way, Eunice, and then Carroll. And there's always confusion in that area. It's going to increase traffic on Eunice. Why is that important? Because I live on Villanueva Way, and have been the neighborhood watch captains, and I have papered 122 homes on newsletters and things. And Villanueva Way, U-shaped street, you try and get out on Eunice with the speed bumps. Now all the traffic trying to go left from Sleepers coming down Carroll, coming down
30
Eunice.
seconds.
Thank you. And we can't get out. We would have to go towards Cooper Park to get out and then go through the speed humps. So I think I've expressed all my concerns. Thank you, husband, for letting me have your time. I promote that I suggest that we do all the improvements you're suggesting except for the posts. and see how it goes, and also have restricted left turn during certain hours, likely 3 to 5 p.m. And I'd be interested in your stats on traffic because of the integrated from when it, before it was installed to what kind of traffic you're getting now. Thank you.
Good job.
Hi, I'm Chris Hildebrand. I live off Eunice for 38 years. I use the intersection in question every day, usually by car or with grandchildren by hand, walking. The safety issues have been around for, as was mentioned already, ages. And in 2015, we started a big campaign in our neighborhood, but we didn't get really far. City council was not very receptive at that point. I am with Cindy. I live on Villanueva Court, which is a cul-de-sac. I'm very active with CERT. Our neighborhood, Waverly Park, has only 4 access points to leave in an emergency to Grant Road. And that is Sleeper, this intersection, Eunice and Levin, and then maybe a little one, Porterfield Court. It's kind of a half intersection. I'm very concerned that the restriction with the posts is causing confusion and problems, people leaving that neighborhood. And Eunice will be a nightmare. We are getting more expansion on the daycare center too, so there will be more parents driving in every day in the morning and in the evening. So the backup from Carroll Avenue to Grant Road will be a problem in the morning and in the evening when people come and pick up their children. I time all my leave from home on when does the hospital is done with the shifts, when is St. Francis getting out, when is the Y shift change too, they have a shift change too. And people in classes are parking on my street anyway. So we are very inundated with unintended consequences in that neighborhood. You might not even think about that. Thank you.
Have additional in-person public comments?
There'll be another time for questions.
No, if you want to raise a question, make it in your comments and I'll try to make note of it.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Ann Bradford. I live on Woodleaf Way. Every day I come out of Sleeper and turn onto Grant, and then when I come home, I turn from Grant onto Sleeper, and it's unclear to me, these cones, if that turn is no longer going to be permitted from Grant onto Sleeper. There's a lot of high school students who use that turn every morning going to school. There's people coming to Huff who live off of El Camino in, it's not called Huff, sorry anymore, Imai school coming from other parts of the city. So I'm just wondering how that's going to impact all of that traffic, and if it's all going to go on Eunice, what that's going to be like. So that's my only question.
Thank you. Any additional in-person comments? Do we have online comments?
Yes, we'll have at least 5.
Okay.
Celia Paymer, I'm going to click to allow you to talk, and then please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, yep, I'm Celia Paymer. I'm really excited to see this project come up again. I think my first public comment ever was on this project, 2019 or 2020. So I'm excited to see it's finally going forward. I use that crossing about 3 to 6 times a week. James, when you saw me on the trail, that's where I'd come from and that's where I had to go back to. We also take our kids to cross there. They've been biking since they were 2. Crossing with 2-year-olds there has been terrifying. So I'm really excited to see that there's going to be protection at that crossing for children going to Stevens Creek Trail. I'm also really excited to see the update. I think on my previous public comment on this, one of my main points was it was supposed to improve bike and pedestrian experience, but it was still designed as a 3-way intersection. And now it is fully designed as a 4-way intersection, which is how pedestrians and bicyclists will be using it. Also, I'm really glad of the northern crosswalk, as that is the side of the street that has a sidewalk on it so that it is the side of the street that most of the pedestrians are on. And now they don't have to cross two streets to cross. So I'm excited to see that. As a side note, I'm a little confused about everyone's comments about St. Francis, as St. Francis is on Miramonte and only has an entrance and exit on Miramonte. But maybe people mean.
No.
I think you mean, no, you mean Mountain View High School. Mountain View High School is off of Grant. St. Francis is on Miramonte. I know because I live across the street from it. So, yeah, so I think you mean that high school. In which case, if it is students turning onto Sleeper to go to that high school, it's something we actually actively want to prevent, as that is the safe route for bikes to go to Mountain View. So we would like to keep those cars on Grant all the way up to Bryant, hopefully. Or maybe have them bike instead of driving at all. So I'm really excited for this design, and I hope that it gets unanimous approval to go towards the Transportation Committee. Thank you.
April Webster, I'm going to click to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, April Webster. I've lived in Mountain View over a decade. I've used that route, and I've been an avid biker for actually since I was a child. And I will bike on some of the crazy hills in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And this is one of the intersections I avoid. I would bike through it and started biking on side roads to get to Stevens Creek from my loop on Foothill or up in the hills around there, just because of the safety reasons. So I'm really excited to see the work that's being done. It's a simple intersection with good design. I believe there's a bike ped scramble. I'm excited to see the no turn on right, which is a good choice given the speed and volume of traffic along Grant. As everyone's pointed out, it's definitely a safety issue. I'm trying to understand what's going on with the vertical delineators. It's not clear if it's protecting the bike lanes, but if it is, I think those are absolutely important. Paint is never enough, and it's been proven to be necessary to use vertical delineators to protect bicyclists. I hope that the design can be pushed through and implementation start as soon as possible. There are two other things I just wanted to talk to, and Mr. Siegel brought this up, and it's the process paralysis. And I do understand some of the constraints. I know this started back in 2010. There was some documents where this is brought to the staff's notice from the public. And I'm just wondering if, with such a long running project, if staff could look at a potential postmortem, particularly a project such as this, which is fairly simple with mostly paint, no repavings, and being passed between different iterations of staff, BPAC members and council. For example, are there any changes that could be made to help speed up certain phases of the project workflow? Are all phases always necessary? Are multiple rounds of design necessary? Are there any efficiencies that could be identified? Is there something that can be done in terms of incremental implementation? For example, the Ped Island was implemented initially. Could the same have been done with another crosswalk? It's just paint. Is there anything simple, quick, and relatively cheap that can be done early on? Is 6 months, for example, necessary to acquire the materials right now to implement the intersection? Can materials be bought in advance? And I bring this up because when projects, I understand that there were challenges with resources and conflicting priorities, and this is such long running, it's been passed from staff to staff. But when they run so long, it starts to erode the trust that the public has and can be very discouraging. So just whatever that can be done to look back on this and learn from it, I think that would be wonderful. And I cede my last 9 seconds. Thank you so much.
All right, Marcy Marcus, I'm going to click to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, hi, my name is Marcy Marcus, and I am a resident who lives on the corner of Sleeper and Grant. While I understand the safety issues, and we do think it is good to have a full crosswalk where there is right now currently a partial one, I echo the concerns of the lady who spoke earlier about the left-hand turn signal and the congestion that it is very likely to cause both on Sleeper Avenue as well as probably the backup that's going to result on Eunice from the rerouting of traffic going to Eunice that we are, and I also have personal concerns because it's already difficult for us to even get out of our driveway during peak hours when the schools are let out and the hospital shifts are changing. And I shudder to think how much worse it's going to get once these implement traffic controls are put in. I do think it's a bit overkill. I agree with the other lady who spoke earlier that perhaps they can just put a partial left-hand turn restriction instead of a full left-hand restriction that might ease some of the traffic. But it is difficult to get out of both Eunice and Sleeper Avenue without adding these additional restrictions. So we have some serious concerns about how this is going to back up the traffic in the neighborhood. And as the other people said, there is both a high school where the students do drive. I understand that some of them bike, but there are a lot of them that drive, as well as parents coming out of the elementary school, Amy Imai. So has the committee considered the fact that it's going to cause backup in the neighborhood for the residents there? And in addition, we do not want those posts put along the sidewalk. I think that is going to cause more problems for pedestrians and bikers, as the other lady said. We agree with that. And as the resident of the house on that corner, we really do not want that on our sidewalk. And I am the parent of 2 small children, so I understand the safety concerns. But we have always just walked down to the 2 lights that are on either side of Sleeper Avenue with no problem and crossed at the appropriate street lights. So while I understand that the safety measures are wanted by several people, we do think the design might be slight overkill, and are hoping the committee is willing to maybe just only do part of it. Thank you.
David, I'm going to click to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself and you will have 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. This is David Andrzejek. I live on Sleeper Avenue. We've lived here for 18 years. I drive, bike, and walk that intersection. I'm in favor of a crossing solution on Sleeper and Grant. We advocated for a crossing solution in the hearings in 2018. We're in favor because we see a lot of bicycle traffic on Sleeper, and all the other reasons why we're gathered here today. Like an earlier commenter, and I'm sorry I forgot her name, I would also like to see the crosswalk with the turn restrictions without the post as a first step. I think we can do incremental improvement without doing the full posts through the middle of the intersection. I will say that I already go to Eunice during high traffic times because I cannot reliably get across Grant Road to head south on Grant from my house on Sleeper. During low traffic times, it's pretty easy, and I do make left turns there. I do have kind of a question and comment, or a couple of questions and a comment. The first design had one crossing, just the south crossing. And I am very curious as to why the designers think a second crosswalk and second bike lane is needed. How many Sleeper Avenue crossings do we think the additional Grant crosswalk will avoid? And what is the impact of that extra crosswalk on Grant Road traffic? I will say, pending what I hear from that answer, the design at this point is starting to look very over-engineered, and it would be great to see, the first design, or maybe even the first design without the I forget what you guys call them, the posts in the middle of the road. That's it for me. Thank you.
Ling, I'm going to click to allow you to talk. Please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Ling Wang, and I also live in the neighborhood on the opposite side off of Sleeper. And I will say that I use that current crossing with the median on the south side all the time with young kids. And my biggest concern when I do that crossing is mostly with when I'm stopping, the lane furthest from me usually do not see me. So I teach my kids to always wait for both cars on both lanes to stop, right, in one direction. And then we cross into the median and then we make the next crossing. So I will echo with David, where I feel like, the current design is overkill. But we could use some sort of light signal where, if someone presses a button and it flashes and tells everybody across all lanes that someone is trying to cross. But I do think having a north side, a second crosswalk there, I question the value there and the additional traffic that's going to cause, especially during the rush hours, basically from the hours of 3 to 5. The cars are so backed up from Grant that, we can't even make right-hand turns. So I feel like the left-hand restriction, I'm not sure how it's really gonna impact traffic. So that's, if we could do something that's simpler with the existing crosswalk / medium first, as like a phase 1, and do some sort of, if we want to do additional, then do some temporary solutions that we can study the impact before we do some sort of full implementation. And then I will cede the rest of my seconds.
Chair, if we have no other public comments.
All right. With that, we will close public comment for item 6.1. I will briefly go through some of the questions I heard brought up in public comment, but as a note, there's a lot of information in the attachments to the meeting. And is there contact information people can go to if they have specific questions about the project?
Yeah, so we sent out a mailer and our email address was included, I think.
Yeah. All right. Engineer Robertson, can you please speak up?
As part of the mailer that was distributed to notify for this meeting and the CTC meeting, my email address was included. Please feel free to reach out to me in the future.
Saw that, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, running through things quickly. I heard a question about the second crosswalk and bike lane as noted in the memo that was added in earlier revisions at the request of the Council Transportation Committee, I believe.
So I believe that was not included in the recommendation coming out of the feasibility study.
Yeah.
But it was recommended out of BPAC and the council.
Principal Engineer Gonzalez, can you please speak up?
Yes, I can. Thank you. I believe the question was about the second northern crossing of the intersection. That was not part of the original feasibility study recommendations, and that was added to. That was feedback we received from the Bike and Ped committee the first time it came through after the feasibility study, and then echoed by the Council Transportation Committee, and then confirmed by council that that was the preferred design.
Thank you. Yes, there was a note about St. Francis. There is at least bike and pedestrian access to St. Francis by the medical centers. There was a question about turning from Grant onto Sleeper. I believe that you are able to turn left from southbound Grant onto Sleeper.
Yes, that
will stay open.
Yes.
That will stay open? Okay.
Clear.
And I think there's some mention, and this will next be going to CTC, which will be at the next CTC meeting. Is that correct?
The next CTC meeting will be October 2nd.
Okay,
it'll be on the agenda.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to committee comments. Would anyone like to begin?
Yeah, I'll make one comment. So I think I would like to see us, get to a point where either because of, Project Zero and ranking of the high injury network, we have a more objective way to rank projects. I know this fits the category where we've seen fatalities of an arterial street with a residential crossing. The list of projects also had one at Junction and Rengstorff, which is not yet treated. We had one treated at Almonte and Merritt where there was in fact a fatality. So it's clearly a project that fits the criteria of expected. And we heard a lot of residents talk about the propensity of injuries. I guess I'd just like to see us try to quantify a little better so that if there becomes a reordering, we know why one's getting reordered over another. And have more objective criteria for the longer term. So we can rank projects and as traffic changes, they move up or move down. We understand that better. So I think that's just the overall process. I guess I heard comments of we're overdoing it and underdoing it, and it's been a long time coming. I know the addition of the bike crossing was added so that we didn't put bikes going the wrong way on the traffic. I assume that the addition of the second pedestrian crossing was so we don't disadvantage and force through crossings. So I'm basically, I think this is an incremental approach. If we have to go to full signalized in the future, that's always still an option. But I think I'd like to see how much traffic reduction occurs by encouraging high school traffic to bike and walk. If it becomes longer, I've been both a parent and now a high school teacher. I know that students sometimes need a push to walk, and if it takes longer to drive than walk or bike, then that starts to balance the equation. So I'd like to see us move forward and get this implemented. And if we need to reassess whether it's having the desired effect and go full signalize, that's always an option in the future.
And just to make sure we're moving towards the right thing, we are hoping to make an explicit motion saying that we like this project, or are we just?
Is that what you're looking for?
Staff is open to any feedback. So from here, we're really at the 10% design phase. It's well developed on the screen you've seen here, but that needs to be incorporated into project drawings. So this is the opportunity for us to take your feedback. Since it's already gone to council, we're not looking for a specific motion.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Carry on.
That's the extent of my comments. So I'm very excited to see the safety issues dealt with. I guess I'd like to, it sounds like there's already issues with the intersections being blocked, both at Eunice and Sleeper and at the fire station. It appears that even with treatments, it's been an issue. So it sounds like enforcement is an additional step that's required. But from what I see, it looks like something we should move forward with. Thank you.
Sure, I'm going to say that I think it's a very good design. I like it. It makes a lot of sense with the direction of adding a second bicycle crossing. It makes a lot of sense to also add the pedestrian crossing and putting in the blackout for right turns and adding the delineators for the bike lane so that they aren't stopped when the traffic backs up. It's good, and I've heard a lot of public comment. People are eager for these improvements, and I'm glad that it's in the pipeline finally, and it's coming. And I just echo all the concerns. I'm glad staffing's back up, and I hope that we can move, especially safety projects like these, forward faster in the future.
All right, then I will say my piece. Let's see, in terms of, I think the most specific comment I had, I like the project. I particularly like the addition of the extra bicycle and pedestrian crossings so that people can get across more readily. I particularly like the right turn on red restrictions that we've seen that people turning right at red lights can be a significant safety issue, so I look forward to that. These specific comments, I do appreciate what some of the members of the public mentioned about trying to make it so that people don't block the intersection. I don't know if there's anything to be done reasonably other than, I mean, keep clear in big lettering or whatever, or if it's going to be fine as is, but it seems reasonable to consider. For the various posts, normally I tend to be gung-ho about flex posts and quick build stuff and whatnot. Given that I assume we're already going to have to be pouring some amount of concrete for this, it seems appropriate to consider whether we should put in more substantial posts of some sort so that the crosswalks and refuge islands and the such are more physically protected from wayward vehicles. I don't know what exactly makes the most sense, but I know that in a lot of situations, those sorts of more flexible or less substantial, like case 71s or whatever, are put up partially for cost reasons. I don't know how big the cost delta would be, of course.
Chair Kuzma,
yes.
can you clarify between the posts that are within the intersection?
It would help if we could see the. I
want to make sure I capture this.
Yeah.
We're going to be reporting to CT next week, and I'm going to
Yeah.
be taking your comments and moving forward.
Yeah, my inclination would be to say both. You would be the expert on what the exact trade-offs would be, especially in terms of cost. But as I said, my assumption is sort of that if we're doing substantial construction on this intersection, that may be a much smaller ask than if it were we just want to put some stuff in quickly on this one stretch of road. But like the things that sort of guide the left turn from Grant onto Sleeper, I could see wanting to have those be a bit more substantial, although that depends a bit on what's going to be on that median island, but it does create a bit more of a like strongly physically protected area around the median for cyclists and pedestrians. In terms of is the only place where the like traditional flex posts, I guess, not the K71s, right? It's the only place they're going to be put along the right turn or the turn from Sleeper onto Grant.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I assume traffic there will be typically lower speed, since I assume traffic off of Sleeper will typically be lower speed. So I'd be personally less concerned about those being more substantial, but it's always nice to have stronger protection from the big cars. And I think this would clarify what a member of the public was mentioning. Those posts on that bike lane, those would be sort of, is there even a sidewalk there right now?
Yes, there is on the
Yeah, on that side.
Yeah, so but those posts would not be at all on the sidewalk. Those are.
They're in the right way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so those were is that?
Yes,
that's
thank you.
Okay. Let's see what else. I like the left turn restriction from Sleeper onto Grant. I think I probably mentioned that at the last BPAC meeting where this came up, Bill. And in terms of the general project delivery stuff, yeah, I'd always love to see these things happen faster. I know that the stuff in the last 17 months, a lot of that was funding and whatnot for other substantial safety improvements in the city. So I only mind that so much, and I appreciate that things are able to move forwards now. But yes, anything we can do to make safety improvements happen faster. Yeah, I think that's it for me. And in the absence of any need for formal.
Just to address a raised hand we have from Marcy Marcus, we can only have comments from the public during the public comment period for this agenda item. So I'm going to lower your hand. Thank you for lowering your hand.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah. Anything else from any committee members? Anything else you wanted from us?
I think we have what we need. Thank you so much.
When might we next hear about this or the various other intersections that are getting sort of bundled in under this capital program or whatever?
So the schedule showed that we will be finishing up the design in the first part of 2024, April timeframe. We'll be going to council shortly after that, so we could report back. You'll see at a minimum in the council connections that we've advertised the project.
Thank you. that, we will conclude item 6.1. And we will move on to item 6.2, update on the National Association of City Traffic and Transportation Officials Designing for All Ages and Disabilities Guide. I assume we have a presentation.
Yes, we do. All right, Chair, I will be providing a presentation tonight. I am Brandon White, the active transportation planner for the city of Mountain View. And as you correctly stated, this is the National Association of City Transportation Officials, NACTO, All Ages and Abilities Guidance. The MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, which is our regional metropolitan planning organization in San Francisco, requires passed a complete streets policy in 2022. And it states that projects funded with regional discretionary funds or receiving MTC endorsement shall adhere to the complete streets policy. An example of this might be OBAG 3 funds or any funds basically allocated from the federal government. All projects must implement complete streets as recommended in local or county plans. And if a project is on the regional active transportation network, which you see here to the right, it should incorporate design details based on the U.S. Access Board PROAG, which we had a presentation for you in November of last year, and the NACTO All Ages and Abilities Guidance. And so that is what your presentation is here today. To sum this up, if the NTC is funding the project and the project is on the AT network, we must use the active NACTO All Ages and Abilities Guidance and the PROAG guidance. So what is NACTO All Ages and Abilities Guidance? So NACTO, as I said before, is the National Association of City Transportation Officials. Its mission is to build cities as places for people which are safe, sustainable, accessible, provide equitable transportation, support a strong economy, and vibrant quality of life. They are the most innovative design guidance available in the United States. NACTO is an association of 96 major North American cities and transit agencies. They are formed to share ideas, insights, practices, and cooperatively approach national transportation issues. Some of the local cities include San Francisco, Oakland, Palo Alto, Fremont, Redwood City, and Cupertino. On the right is we have a chart of the dues and the difference in short between a full membership and an affiliate membership is of course the size of the population of the city and the metro. But also most importantly, if you are a larger city, then you have impact on the policy board of NACTO. If you are a smaller city, an affiliate, you do not have input on the policy board of NACTO. These are some of the design guides. And the one that we're going to focus on here today is the Designing for All Ages and Abilities guide, as I said before. So this guide is specifically to create high comfort bicycle facilities that are designed for all ages and abilities, or a AAA criteria. They want to have safe facilities that lower crash risk and increase ridership, comfortable facilities that are interesting and comfortable for all abilities, and equitable infrastructure in all parts of the community, regardless of the income or race of that local community. And you can see here on the bottom of the screen all the various different groups they're trying to serve. This chart here on the right is basically the core of the document. The core of the document has several criteria by which they go by. Target motor vehicle speeds. Note that is not existing 85th percentile. That is not posted speed limit. That's a target speed. So the speed at which the users of the design guide want traffic to travel at. Target average daily traffic volumes, or how many cars are going through that area per day. Again, not existing, but target. Number of motor vehicle lanes. And then key operational considerations, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But most importantly, they bolded this. The all ages and abilities criteria is not a reason to not improve a bikeway. So if you're not able to meet the criteria on this chart, you can still provide a bikeway. In other words, something is better than nothing. Important highlights of the chart. Operational factors that lead to bikeway conflicts are reasons to provide protected bikeways regardless of the vehicle speed or volume. So in other words, you can provide protected bikeways in any situation. So the guide suggests when a protected bikeway should come on, but if your judgment states we want a protected bikeway, provide a protected bikeway. Shared streets or a WUNERF, and these are streets where bicycles, cars, and pedestrians all use the same portion of the roadway. So no sidewalk, no bike lane, no specific travel lanes, everyone is mixed in together, a shared street. The criteria that they provide here is that the motor vehicle traffic is less than 10 miles per hour, and interestingly noted, does not matter how many cars are traveling that link or that roadway, just that they are traveling very slow. For bicycle boulevards, which we'll have a picture of later in the document, but a bicycle boulevard, as I'm sure most of you know, is a roadway that is generally narrow that allows for bikes and cars to share together, that generally has slow motor vehicle speed and slow motor vehicle volume. Pedestrians are on sidewalks in a bicycle boulevard, and they suggest speeds equal to or less than 25 miles per hour with ADTs. That's average daily traffic volume less than 1,500 cars. Other important highlights, bike lanes or buffered bike lanes are for areas 25 miles per hour or less with an ADT of less than 6,000. So if you have a slow street but a higher volume, up to a medium level of volume, it's a bike lane rather than a bike boulevard. If you exceed 25 miles per hour or if you exceed 6,000 cars per day, protected bikeway or a trail if possible. Where to do trails? Do trails on high speed or natural corridors with limited access points. By that I mean driveways or roads. Those provide a trail. High pedestrian volume. So this is a statement that they also make about trails. If there is a high pedestrian volume on your trail, you should separate the pedestrian traffic from the bike traffic on the trail. So this is some of the operational considerations. You can do other things to try to get the motor vehicle volumes or motor vehicle speeds to what you want it to be your target. And so you can change the design. Here is a repurpose the motor vehicle lanes or a road diet, as we often hear, which is going from, say, 2 travel lanes in one direction to 1 travel lane in one direction, and perhaps adding a center turn lane. Converting a buffered bike lane to a protected bike lane. We are fortunate in California that Caltrans states to always consider a protected bikeway if you can provide a buffered bikeway. You can change the operation. You can change how cars make their lefts, make their rights, the various different timing of an intersection, things like that. So you can create separation and you can use the signal progression to lower speeds. You can change the network design. So you'll see this often with bicycle boulevards where only rights are allowed for motorists or motorists are prohibited from all movements, but bikes and pedestrians would be allowed all movements. Also, you can have time of day regulations. So perhaps the bike lane is operating in a certain way at a certain time, or rights are allowed at a certain time where they're not allowed at another time. Same for us. Here are some suggestions from the guide for stress reduction techniques. We talked about bicycle boulevards, and here we have a picture from Portland, Oregon, of a bicycle boulevard utilizing volume control. So they changed the operation of the roadway here, like I had shown before, where bikes and pedestrians are allowed to go through, but cars are not. Also, these types of treatments can be tried on a temporary basis to see if they work fairly easy to reverse. Road diets, which we do have here coming, California Street, which we are also trying as a pilot project, so those can also be reversed. Again, a road diet is where we have 4 or 5 lanes of travel and we reduce those down to 3 typically, and then add pedestrian bikeways and the 2 lanes in one direction and then a center turn lane to accommodate less. Road diets from a 4-lane to a 3-lane conversion not only aid cyclists, but they also lower crash risk for motorists because we don't have people trying to make quick rights around someone trying to turn left because we provide that center left turn lane. Bike boxes and protected intersections. So we have a picture here of a bike box, which allows the bicycle to make a much easier left and also to be up in front and in the vision of the motorist if that motorist is making a right and the cyclist is going through. That's a bike box. Protected intersection is where we provide a corner island up into the middle of the intersection that physically protects the cyclist with either concrete or flex posts. Truck loading zones. This is specifically talking about providing a clear delineated area for trucks to park, therefore, so they don't park in motor vehicle or bicyclist travel lanes. And then transit boarding islands. And here is an example from our BTA, which is a really great design of how to let the bus stop in the lane and the bikes not have to actually interact with the bus by coming behind the transit station. And so to do that, you have a crossing for pedestrians that is raised so that pedestrians to get to the bus station can walk across the bike lane and then wait at the transit boarding aisle. So the last thing I just wanted to say is that the NAPTO guide is again a requirement when when MTC is funding a project and when the project is on the active transportation network. And the NAPTO guide is the most innovative progressive document in the United States and recognized by Caltrans as an allowable document to be used, not required to be used. MTC requires it, Caltrans does not, but they do allow you to use it on any project. And so I am happy to answer any clarifying questions.
So MTC requires it. County of Santa Clara does not. So Measure B is not MTC driven.
I don't believe it is. Is that correct, Transportation Manager?
Yes, that's correct.
So things like Central Expressway and Foothill Expressway don't have to follow.
No.
Thank you for the question. Actually, there's a lot of funding that comes for projects on all sorts of networks that could go through, that could be federal and that could pass through MTC. So there are likely to be expressway projects that go through MTC. I'm not sure is it on the network, the Regional Active Transportation Network? That would be the second question.
The key to your question is not who owns the property, but who funds the project.
Right, I just want to clarify because I saw a Foothill on there. I couldn't tell if Central or Middlefield or what was across the middle. It looked like El Camino was on the network.
And anything in the network that falls within the yellow, even if it's not directly.
No, what I've heard from MTC is that the yellow is a band. So the city could decide for that line there, we could have that on, maybe like it could be, we'd have to choose which facility is the active transportation network corridor.
The county is.
So for example, there's one section where it's wide enough to fit both the Caltrain line and also California Street. So as a city, I think we would choose California Street in that area because we don't have right of way.
It was my understanding that they put a half-mile buffer around any of the roads that were added.
Yes.
So
So that means that not every road within the yellow has to have these features. It's one corridor within the yellow, which has a buffer around
Does
it,
the corridor have to be contiguous?
Why did they provide a buffer then?
so that we could have some choice.
So that we have the choice within the project
So
area.
let's talk about the Peninsula Bikeway, I guess, as currently configured. It comes across the Wilkie Bridge, and I think it's supposed to jog over to California. So that could be considered, I assume, part of that central corridor. Or we could take it up to Central Expressway. Both are within probably the half mile of that band, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand what it does near the Palo Alto border, but it definitely includes like the section with California. I just don't remember.
So if MDC was involved, it would be mandated. And I guess if Ringsdorf and Central, when the county took away the bike lanes, I assume that wasn't MTC funded or not. NACTO didn't apply, so they didn't have to do anything.
This only started in 2022.
If the county was trying to do that again, they wouldn't be able to take away the bike lane and take away.
If it's funded with MTC money.
I had one question. You mentioned low speed signal progression. I've not heard that term before. Could you elaborate?
My understanding on low speed signal progression is that we can use the signals to slow traffic down so that they don't have like a continuous green wave for motorists so that they can get to speed, but a signal will interrupt their speed. Therefore they stop, they accelerate, they stop.
What they were saying about Grant Road.
Yeah. It was spin up.
I'm not gonna answer that.
Yeah, okay.
It was spin up to encourage traffic flow. Now they don't like it.
Okay, thank you.
Or the other way of thinking of it is that instead of having a green wave for motorists, it's a green wave for fast bicyclists.
Would not necessarily.
Okay.
We would have to program that.
Yes.
Yes.
That could be an option.
Yeah, that could be an option. But the active all ages and abilities guide from NACTO doesn't actually state that as an option. Their bikeway design guide, however, does, but that one is not mandated by NTC. But we do use it often in our own work, but not as a requirement.
Going back, the corridor identified here is, looks like Highway 85, the north-south one.
That would be Stevens Creek Trail.
Stevens Creek Trail, which, okay, so that's our preferred route.
And the transportation manager, correct me if I'm wrong, we put in our preferred locations for the AT network.
Yeah.
They are evaluated by MTC and selected, although generally they are the same as what we put in. Then that's the area, say Middlefield, the trail. Then we set that buffer, as I'm learning now, which is optional around that area. So around Stevens Trail is optional, Stevens Trail is not.
Well, I guess sort of minor technical question. Are ADTs the bidirectional traffic flow combined or per direction? Yes, bidirectional. Okay. You referenced how on sort of high pedestrian volume trails and the such, it is typically preferred to then separate pedestrian and bicycle traffic. What is typically used as a threshold for high pedestrian volumes?
I would call that a limitation of the design guide and NACTO in general. The American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, AASHTO, has a very good, still very good guide from 2012, which is supposed to be updated in the next year. That guide does give you perspective on what is a high level of pedestrian volume and a high level of bicycle volume. So we would utilize that guide in order to be able to answer the question that you just posed. However, I would state this, Mountain View has very high bike and pedestrian mode share. So most everywhere on the Stevens Creek Trail would qualify as high pedestrian volume.
Since that's a different, there's levels of like Stevens Creek Trail versus say a sidewalk on Castor Street, which are orders of magnitude.
Well, a sidewalk on Catcher Street wouldn't qualify as a.
I'm just using for pedestrian volume references, not for, I'm not saying sidewalk on Catcher Street.
Yes, the trail volumes would come specifically from the ASHA guide and specific to trails. They do not involve themselves with sidewalk.
Yeah. Just for thinking about what high pedestrian volume is. Okay. And this is coming before us, I assume specifically because the MTC requirement is in it. Are there any particular plans to use this or formal plans to use this in any other, for other projects in Mountain View, or just keep it around as a general guidance? Or
there are no formal plans. However, we are in the process of developing the active transportation plan currently.
Okay. There's no other specific clarifying questions. I will move us to public comment for item 6.2. Do we have it?
I'm a public person here, but I have no comment. I'm just my first time attending. I am absorbing everything.
Do we have any online public comments for item 6.2?
Yes, we do. Just let me switch over to the timer. Let's see there. April Webster, I'm going to click to allow you to talk, and please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure, April Webster, and I guess I'll state I'm on the Caltrans District 4 Bicycle Advisory Committee, and also on the MTC Active Transportation Working Group. And I think, so I was writing some notes, but I'm pretty sure someone brought up Middlefield, and I don't know if it was the crossing over, if this was addressed, the crossing over the 85. I may have been mistaken, but I think I heard that. I just wanted to point out that would be, and to connect it to Stevens Creek Boulevard, that would be one of the gaps with DIB 94. Unfortunately, I identified it as a potential project with Caltrans about 3-4 years ago. It is owned by Caltrans because it passes over their right of way. So for anything to get to close that gap in our network, we would, unless it gets pulled into this current design bulletin change, we'll have to likely apply for an exemption through Caltrans. So I just wanted to point that out. And the Caltrans the Caltrans bike plan is currently under development. Please check out the survey and put in your, send in feedback on this, that you want these, especially the interchanges or these specific projects addressed. You can also send me an email directly. I'm on the technical advisory committee and would be happy to amplify anyone's voices for certain projects to be prioritized. Thank you. I cede my time.
Additional?
No, we do not.
All right, that closes public comment for item 6.2. With that, we will move on to committee comments. I assume since this is largely informational, there's no particular action that or particular feedback that's being looked for.
Correct.
Correct. Any comments? That looks wonderful. I hope to see it applied. With that, we can move on to item 6.3, the VTA BPAC update. Is there any particular way we want to do this, since member Adamic, our VTA representative, wrote something up but is not physically present?
And I will ask the BPAC at the draft work plan. You had requested a shift to a pre-written presentation. Is the desire to have a presentation of that information, or is it simply to have that information in advance of the meeting so that you have it?
Don't know how to sequence this, but I was happy with just having information in advance of the meeting.
Yeah, I like having information in advance of the meeting with the opportunity for direct Q&A for additional context if appropriate.
I don't think any presentation per se.
Understood, and it is without member Adamic here, who wasn't,
Context is available.
correct.
Okay, with that, I'm going to, I guess, open for public comment and then see if anyone has any particular comments or questions on the VTAB PAC update. So is there any public comment on the VTAB PAC update?
I am seeing no public comment.
With that, I will close public comment for item 6.3, the VTAB PAC update. Any comments or questions or discussions from the committee on the VTAB PAC update? I appreciate the written report myself. I thought it was very informative and helpful to see what's going on.
I enjoyed reading the report, but I have no particular.
All right, then we will close item 6.3 and move on to item 6.4, the VPAC fiscal year 2023 to 24 work plan. I assume Brandon will walk us through this.
That is correct.
All right.
Select that. It's supposed to stop. This. Yep. Per our normal process reviewing the work plan, I will go through the items that have changed since the last time you saw the work plan. AB 43 implementation previously had a to be decided date. It has now been scheduled for October of 2023 for our next VPAC meeting. AB 43 changes the way that speed limits are evaluated in the state of California. Grant sleeper crossings was scheduled to occur in fall of 23. It has just occurred, September 23. Implement a new Safer Access School program with schools scheduled to begin in fall of 23. It is underway and we will have an extensive review for you during the staff update. The Council Neighborhoods Committee, yes, is been brought back, and the first meeting will occur at Springer Cuesta in Phyllis neighborhood. The meeting will happen at 545 Hans Avenue at 6:30 on October 5th at 20 this year. We also will have regular CNC neighborhood meetings that occur here at City Hall. And then the next one of those will be on December 7th at 6:30. And those are all the changes that occurred here in the work plan. And now I will go through changes that occurred on the tentative agenda list. I will skip over the meeting that just occurred. The active transportation plan update was going to.
I think you're not sharing this one. Okay.
Thank you. The active transportation plan update was going to occur at this meeting, but has been postponed to October, just to be able to process all of the information that we had collected. We kept public input open for about 2 months longer than we had expected. The transportation demand management ordinance has actually been brought up from November, and it is occurring smoothly and a little bit ahead of schedule. AB 43 was TBD and is now scheduled for October. The local road safety plan was scheduled for September and has been moved back to the 29th of November. The pavement management plan was able to be presented on October, but that October meeting would be quite long. And so we have moved that to November. Active transportation improvement funding is still planned for discussion at the November meeting. The legislative update has been scheduled for January. We'll talk about new bike and pedestrian related legislation in California. The active transportation plan scenarios have been scheduled for March. This was not on there previously. So this will give the VPAC several packages of potential project lists and how they might affect the city or scenarios to evaluate, and that is the culmination of phase 2 of the active transportation plan. And then the active transportation plan draft final review for the BPAC has been scheduled for June 26th of 2024. And that would be the last presentation of the active transportation plan to the BPAC before it goes to council. Collision data review has been moved to be scheduled. The crime data analyst for the city has been hired, but she has not started yet. A month or so after she has started, we will begin discussions about bringing back the work that our previous crime data analyst did and catching us back up and providing you all a report of that data. That data is crash and theft data related to bikes and pedestrians. And then the Vision Zero active transportation outreach program is a newer program, and we do intend to bring that to you at some point in the future. And that is my report for the work plan and tentative agenda list, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So question on the TDM for the October meeting, what's our expected input or action for that?
I believe it is a update, but I will let the transportation manager answer that question.
We should not really be talking about it. I mean,
Whatever you feel is appropriate, I think it's just a question about what the.
We'll be bringing the existing conditions and information on the vision for that project.
Okay, and I guess would there be follow on, because I didn't see anything else on the agenda?
Yeah, this will be the first stage.
Okay. But I mean, will it be added to the agenda at some point in the next 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Couple things for the CNC meetings. Is that something that we're looking for the PAC members to show presence for or something, given where that was in the work plan, or is that just sort of a notice for the stuff that's going on?
Thank you for the question. So before COVID, what happened is that BPAC members would go to the CNC meeting. We'd provide them with a box, and they would do a table at the back and talk to people about BPAC issues, what you're learning from BPAC, and getting input, that sort of thing, connecting with the community. So this is an opportunity for you to do some outreach. If you would like to attend, please let Brandon know which dates work for you.
Okay. Let's see, I just noticing things looking at the towel. Is there any plan for which other local community we might meet with in February? Or is that still too far out?
That is still TBD.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was just curious, since I saw we had Safe Routes to Schools already scheduled for like June of next year. Is that something we're just planning as a yearly item these days?
Yes.
Okay. And that's all the questions I had. I guess we should ask if there is public comment on item 6.4, the fiscal year work plan.
I see no public comment.
We'll close public.
Stand up.
If you'd like.
My name? No, I don't particularly like, I'm the only one.
You can sit, you can
That's okay,
sit.
you don't have
You can
to.
sit.
Let's have public
But if you will give us your name.
My name is Sia Mack, we're in Nizami. Being a resident in Mountain View. 25 years. Is that agenda and available for public to view, refer to, or is this own, okay, that's all I wanted to ask.
Great. Any, that I guess closes public comment for this item. Do you have any particular note on where people can find the agenda or such, Brandon?
The agenda is provided in every BPAC packet for the meetings, and we will provide it prominently on the website. And CMAC, I believe we have your email address, and I can get you a link.
Yes, sir, you do.
All right. Any committee comments on the work plan or TAL? All right, great. Then we will close that. We will move on to the staff's item 7.1, staff comments, and I believe there's a decent amount that staff has to say.
Yes, and I will be presenting that. Selected the wrong PowerPoint. Thank you, Chair. And as it has been 5 months to the day since we have last had a BPAC meeting, our staff update will have several slides tonight. So our last meeting was at the end of April, and so in May is Bike Month. And so here is a recap of May. We had the Bike Month proclamation. We did have our first crowd-sourced active transportation plan bike ride. And you can see that here. Well, you can see that in some photos later on. We do want to thank several of the BPAC members who did attend the bike ride, and we always love when the BPAC members are able to attend a public function. We also had a Graham Middle School walk and roll event. We had the Bike Tour Everdays event. So this year we went up to 3 days. It was very well attended. This was on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you can see here is a picture of Fenwick and West, which is a local law firm that sponsored a bike energizer station. And here they are there providing refreshments to the cyclists, and then city staff was there to provide education about various projects and how to ride safer in Mountain View. Other energizer stations that also occurred were on the Sleeper Trailhead and by La Avenida. We had a great attendance this year. All right, so now we're going to cover some of the recent events in the last 5 months. As we have already mentioned, the Transportation Demand Ordinance has begun and is ahead of schedule. The stakeholder involvement has begun and business outreach has begun. We had nationally ProWag, which handles sidewalk equity and design standards for the United States, was published to the Federal Register. That means the guidelines have been acknowledged and set now. In order to enforce it, they must be adopted by the Department of Transportation and or the Department of Justice. And the Department of Transportation and the Department of Justice can amend the document as they see fit. That is something that we are waiting for. I believe the culmination of this work is well over a decade. So this is a big moment for the United States from a sidewalk perspective. We did at September 17th for this Springer Meadow Neighborhood Association. I attended that event to provide education, encouragement, and knowledge to the community there. And here we have a cyclist and myself talking about how we can improve things in Mountain View. August 24th was the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition Bike Summit. It was their highest attended event in the history of the summits, with 320 attendees at the Mountain View Community Center. We had 2 bike rides. Here is a photo of us getting started to leave for the bike ride. We had approximately 100 riders combined for both bike rides. And then we also had a presentation by our transportation manager, Lowe, regarding green streets. That was their most attended single presentation at the conference, and possibly ever. 80 attendees to that, which was great. We presented on the Castro Plaza project, the Ped Malls, we'll call it, at the Association of Planning, American Association of Planning. Gosh, APA.
Planning Association.
Planning Association. I'm tired. The California conference, and that was very well received. Here's some update on the active transportation plan outreach. We had a survey that had opened and closed through the summer. We had over 600 survey respondents. We had 2 bike rides, which you can see here is a picture, and you can see one of the BPAC members, member Fenwick, had attended, and then we have here members of the public letting myself, and we had the lead consultant up from Arizona here to ride with us, which is really great, so she could see these issues firsthand, and we take photos. And then we had a second bike ride just on the 23rd, this last weekend, to complete the entire route of all the locations that the community had asked for us to see. So those bike rides were crowdsourced. So we emailed and asked the community, what do you want us to know about? And then I linked them all together to put together a bike ride. It was 18 miles long. We couldn't complete it the first time, so we split it in half, and we did 8 miles and then 10 miles this last September. And we also had 3 walk audits, and we tried to spread those walk audits across the community and also to target communities that maybe aren't typically reached by our normal processes. So we had a walk Rangsdorf down to El Camino, Del Medio, Distal Court, and we had a walk that started at Mistral Elementary and went through Latham and California Street and Escuela, and then we had a walk near on Sylvan through Moore Park. All of those events were very well attended by a diverse group of people. And we had 61 attendees for those 3 walk audits. And you can see here is a picture of your vice chair and some younger attendees on the trip who are trying not to hit the pole of the sidewalk.
On the street.
What's that?
On the street.
This is on Sylvan. This is on Sylvan, and you can see Sylvan and Moore Park as the intersection back there, and the on-ramp to 237 in the background. I think I kind of got ahead of myself. We outreached we had other events that weren't just walk or bike rides to target specifically underrepresented communities. So we went to the Community Services Center, we went to the Day Worker Center, we stayed up late with Cafecito, we went to the Senior Center, and we did go to the Teen Center to get the specific, more targeted input so that we could round out the demographics and get our best representation of the city of Mountain View's demographics to match in the survey. Safe routes to school, and if the transportation manager doesn't mind presenting for safe
Sure.
routes to school, she knows more about this.
So we have a new consultant on board for Safe Routes to School now, NN Engineering, and they have a sub-consultant, Safe Moves. So they have a slightly different approach. It's been a little more hands-off for the city, which is great. We've been able to focus on other things. And so some of the new things that we've been focusing on staff was we went to about a dozen back to school tabling events, and also half a dozen popsicle parties for the back to school, which was great. We got to meet a lot of parents and get a lot of really good feedback at those events, and also a few new members for the coordinating committee. We had a mini bike rodeo at Springer Elementary. I don't think they're going to be getting like the bike rodeo later on in the thing. So they got a mini one at the beginning of school. And also as part of Safe Routes to School, some of our traffic staff went out and looked at some conditions near schools. Also the police were out doing some extra patrols near schools at the beginning of the school term, particularly, talking to people about not speeding and making sure that they're wearing their helmets. So they weren't issuing citations, they were kind of winding down their window or talking to people and just kind of having a bit of a presence around the schools. We've also now started the training portion with the new consultants. So we've had a bunch of school assemblies. You can see in the photo down on the right, Safe Moves has actors who are experts also in walking and biking who hold their assemblies. They're very engaging. The kids love it. And everyone learns something. So in the fall, they're going to be doing these assemblies to train people on how to cross appropriately. And then in the spring, they'll be doing the bike rodeos at each of the schools. And we also presented at the all principals meeting for the Mountain View Brisbane School District. And also the construction has finished at Mountain View High School. So we had done a walking audit there last year while construction was in progress. And now that it's finished, we wanted to go back. So we did another walk audit there and found, a bunch of interesting things, lots of bike parking, as you can see in that picture.
All right, and so here we wanted to provide an update to you on some of the recent and upcoming infrastructure that is changed in the city. So Member Automic and several other members of the community residents put in ask MVs to try and not have motor vehicles be blocking the bike lane as they wait to turn right at Calderon and El Camino. And so the treatment, listening to the community and acting fairly nimbly, we were able to add in some striping and 3 flexible posts that we believe will stop that practice from starting at that intersection. So we do want to thank the member made listen to this later. We want to thank her and everyone else that put in ask MVs and letting us know about this problem. In construction, the Leon Fairchild has some bike lanes that are coming that have bike lanes on one side of the road and showers on the other side. That's the best that we could do with that facility, but lots of speed humps, curb extensions are coming with that project. The Colony Street trailhead is actively underway right now. You can ride by and see the construction that's occurring there. Our intention is hopefully to get some pictures of them actually lowering the prefabricated bridge into the trail location, and maybe we'll have that for you by the end of the year, so you can see that cool project come to fruition. Park and Sonia reconstruction is a road reconstruction project, but is adding sidewalks, resurfacing sidewalks. Upcoming projects that are rapidly approaching. They've actually already begun work, preliminary work for El Camino repavement and bikeways projects. So that includes 3 pedestrian hybrid beacons, mostly all class 4 flex post protected bike lanes. There are still some churros that remain in that project, but it is vastly improved over the existing conditions. And at the intersections, the city of Mountain View intends to come in and provide protection at the intersections. We have dedicated funding for Castro Street at El Camino or locally, and then we received grants from federal government via MTC for Escuela and El Monte on El Camino. And then here coming up just in a few weeks is the Castro Pedmal slurry seal. So slurry seal is a thin layer of black asphalt that's laid down over the existing asphalt, seals all the cracks that might be there, but more, maybe not more importantly, but very obviously, is it makes it a nice clean slate for us to put pavement markings down that can better delineate areas inside of the Pedmal for different uses. That is part of the temporary treatment until later when the sidewalk, the road is raised to sidewalk level. So those are the projects that are complete in construction or upcoming. We did want to talk about some of the upcoming events. So we've already sort of talked about the City Transportation Committee meeting on Monday, October 2nd, which will have that grant sleeper that we just dealt with today. And we'll also have California Street, which we addressed in a March PPAC meeting. Wednesday, October 4th is Day Without driving. So you can bike, you can walk, you can take transit, but don't take your car. That's the goal here. You can register with the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. This is specifically the Mountain View team that's putting this on. And there's a raffle if you register from some of the local bike shops. So please don't drive on Wednesday, October 4th. Thursday, October 5th is the Neighborhoods Committee. I don't know why I have trouble with that. And I think we did talk about that already. So I'll move on. And then we have Monster Bash coming on October 28th. And there's gonna be a little bit of a bike ride to get the kids over to Monster Bash. And when they reach Monster Bash, there'll be a bike circus, which is like a bike rodeo, but it's Halloween themed. So lots of fun will be had there at that event. We really would like BPAC members to come out and ride with us. And once you make it to Monster Bash, you can go home or enjoy Monster Bash. But if you don't mind coming out for the bike ride, that'd be great.
Costumes required.
Costumes,
Yes, of course.
very much encouraged.
Encouraged.
Yes. Just don't let it get caught in your chain. And then we have 2 months worth of Ask MVs to discuss. And I am used to having 2 monitors. So you're gonna see the mess behind the chart here in just a second. I did put up the reports for the 2 respective months of last year, so you could compare year over year for the 2 months. And it is staff's intention to get caught up by the end of the year so that all the Ask MVs are processed, and maybe in fact we can do some yearly analysis at that time as well. So, all right, so let me go to you'll see this here and you'll see it again in a second, but I'm gonna get to my notes so that you guys can get the highlights of the reports. And you can see here that we had a lot of reports for Castro in April and no reports in March. The only other thing on here that I will point out is that we had a lot of people complaining about debris, both in the bike lane and in the sidewalks. That might have something to do with winds that had occurred through that time. Okay, so let me get those highlights. So in March, we had an Ask MV that the trail was closed too long from flooding that had occurred a while ago. So noted. We also had requests that the trail bridge is icy. I want to let you know that the city of Palo Alto has tried 2 different treatments last winter on their bridges to address this issue. And I emailed them today. They got back to me that they have evaluated those treatments and they delegated to someone else, but they're going to share that information to me in the coming weeks, and staff will bring that to the Parks Department and see if we want to try those treatments or the treatment that Palo Alto's deemed successful on our bridges, because we get complaints of that.
Verify that.
Yeah, seems reasonably in order. I do all.
Well, okay, let me finish the presentation.
Yeah.
I'm almost done. We did get not a request, but a statement that at El Camino and Grant, when a pedestrian was attempting to cross, a car was making a right turn and blocking the sidewalk, and they weren't able to cross even though they had the white symbol and the right to cross. There were lots of tree branches blocking the sidewalk. Again, I attribute that to storms that had occurred. And then in April, same thing, lots of street sweeping requests. We did have a request to put bike boulevard markings on Central Street. And then we had a separate, different person in April for El Camino and Grant make a request for no right on red at that intersection. And then for some reason, we had a lot of requests in April or complaints and requests of too many people parking their cars on the sidewalk. And that is, oh, wait, no, Castro. So nothing to say about Castro in March, lots to say in April. We had one person who was against the closing of Moffett to Evelyn. We had one person who did not like the K rails blocking Evelyn and Castro. We investigated that and they were not placed in the proper way, and they have been adjusted so that there are at least 2 6-foot openings on the north and south parts of Evelyn so bikes can go in and out of it. So that issue's been addressed. And then we had 2 complaints, 2 people stating they're against the prohibition of bikes on Castro. And then one person requested that the sidewalks be power washed. Yes, Ellen.
Is that it?
That's it.
Before we get to the clarifying questions or whatever the next stage is, could you go back to slide 5?
Yes.
So I heard in the public comments today, several people asking for things to be done more nimbly, interim fixes. And I think this is an example of that on Calderon. Also Leon Fairchild, that was supposed to just be a repaving, but it got bike lanes. The reason for both of those things is because of a very engaged staff member who's your BPAC liaison. Brandon, can you go back a few slides? Brandon, transportation planner, White. Yeah, this one. And so one more thing that happened at the Silicon Valley Bike Summit was that Brandon was nominated as Professional of the Year. He didn't win, but I think that the fact that he was nominated speaks to you know, the quality of work that he does and the efforts that he makes in the city to really give his heart and to do a great job to serve the community. So I wanted to recognize that as well.
I'm here because of Brad.
Great.
Thank you.
For the presentation?
Yes.
Clarifying questions for the committee?
A clarifying question. As someone who uses the Wilkie Way Bridge virtually every day, I don't know that I've seen frost or ice on it. I assume they meant any dampness makes it extremely slippery. So it's not just December or January when we might have frost if we ever get back to prior climate conditions. But it's basically from, well, we had rain last the other morning, so September to May is they used to encourage you to walk your bike, and I haven't seen any other street that tells you to push your car. So they're going to do a pretty poor temporary fix, I would say, but the timbers are decaying so fast, I don't know how long those will even stay fastened to the timbers. I think it's much more reasonable to expect composite or all-weather surfaces be built and reduce maintenance costs and improve safety and save the trees for carbon sequestration. Where we can. Do we have any plans to?
So that your comments, because I think their comments get logged in the comment section, because we don't write clarifying questions down in the minutes. Would you like those to be counted as comments or a clarifying question?
Comments, I guess.
Comments, okay.
My comment would be, the question would be, are we going to have a city policy that suggests safer and road surfaces with a longer useful life? My comment would be, I think we should.
We can have said policies if they are part of the active transportation plan. Our intention is not to wait for the active transportation plan, but to learn from what Palo Alto has tested and address issues that we know we have known problems with, and my understanding that Palo Alto is using treatments that are low cost and easily applied. And that can address the in a temporary to midterm manner. And then if you, as a BPEC member or a resident, would like to see changes that are more policy focused, that those can come from the active transportation.
Clarifying questions? I think I had one or two. One. Oh yes, there was a mention in St. Francis School, there's a old principals meeting with the MVWSD principals. I know that at least MVHS has a new principal. Have there been meetings with the principals of Mountain View and Los Altos high schools?
Yes, so we typically, the Mountain View Brisbane School District has a lot more principals. So
Yes.
they have like a, you know, this forum, which is terrific. We can go and meet with all of the principals all at once. For Mountain View Los Altos High School District, we tend to work a little bit more individually, school by school. And so they have a new principal there. Maybe she's been there for 1.5 years or so, but we've met with her and also the vice principal. Same on the Los Altos side.
Just occurred to me, how do you do reach out to the private school?
Good question. We have been reaching out to all of the private schools, and so far we have not got any traction with them. So we now have enough funding to provide safe routes to school training to each of the private schools. I've heard from GISSV, the German International School, that they have a parent in their school community who is a league a cycling instructor, and she provides their training for bike safety. And so I think there was like less interest from them. The other schools, we've reached out to them repeatedly and we haven't got any traction yet. So we'll keep trying. If we don't hear anything from them, that means that we have a little bit of extra budget, which we would like to allocate to Graham Middle School because they're a bigger school. And they could do with kind of an extra touch there.
With that, do we have any public comments on the staff presentation?
I see no public comments.
Then I'll close public comments for item 7.1, the staff presentation. Any committee comments on the staff presentation beyond what Member Barton mentioned?
I think it's excellent.
Yes, and I will both echo Ria's comment about the efforts that have been going on to make some of these projects, or minor, I guess, in some cases, significant impact projects happen more quickly. And I really appreciate them being called out here because otherwise we don't always hear about them. Like I know the Long and Fairchild thing was mentioned as something that was starting to be looked at as in some past BPAC presentation as oh yeah, we're going to be repaving this sometime in the next couple of years, and we might look at improving the facilities along there. And it's great to see that actually happening. So I appreciate that.
I do have one comment. Given the time frame on El Camino, it says next spring, which I assume means May after the rains. And we required emergency repairs this winter. I don't know if that was city driven or Caltrans or combination. Is there, and given I ride it every day, the potholes are, and the erosion of the surface continues, is there a plan for, or when will we get an update on a plan for emergency repairs to keep it serviceable over the winter?
I don't have a response on that.
I am not aware. You would want to contact Caltrans.
Yeah, but I mean, we just know that they pushed out the paving to spring because they don't think they can get enough done in that first window.
If you have specific potholes you are concerned about, you can go to the Caltrans website, you can email me if you want the link, and fill out a specific.
There's only one that's, I mean,
they will fill that.
Okay. But it's, you know,
protect themselves from liability.
You know, it's just that kind of hundreds of yard sections of just erosion, and you have to kind of do a slalom to get through.
I don't know their intentions. If you want specific potholes filled, specific requests will most likely trigger them to fill those potholes in a fairly timely manner.
I know, like they went out and did El Monte and El Camino, 50 yards around the intersection.
there's a couple other batches of Palo Alto, they did, a couple 100 yards here and there.
That's all. I'll close item 7.1 staff comments. To item 7.2, do we have any committee comments? Seeing none, I assume we have no public comment on the non-existent committee comments. I don't know the proper procedure. Okay.
We have no public.
Great. Then we will close item 7.2, move to the date and time for the next meeting, which will be Wednesday, October 25th, in the same place, I assume?
Yes.
At 6:30 PM. And there are additional meetings in then November, January, and February. And with that, we can adjourn ahead of even our intended timetable.
I'll end the meeting at this time.